still not hearing me? How about now? Are we? Nobody's still hearing me. What? Okay, what about now? Sounds gone again, bub. Let me check on. Wait, man, that just can't be right. Somebody should be hearing me now. That's monitor and output. All of those are active. I want to hear you sing loud. That's what I was singing. Okay, so everybody's good. Everybody's good. All right, good. I'm going to take these out of my ear because I don't want to hear me. Somebody said sing Richie again. I love it, Rainbow Rat. Y'all are amazing. Listen, I am doing something different tonight, right? I'm actually using a different system, as you can tell. So we have some different capacities here. And from what I see, we don't have any glitches so far. So that's a good thing. And everybody's hearing me well. But it's saying you're hearing, but it's not good quality. There's a delay from chat to host. Now I don't even know what that means. Let me check on the quality. Well, let me make sure which mic is coming from. That's probably a good question. Let me see here. The right mic. The right mic. Okay, now it's good. All right, somewhat echoing. Now it's good. Oh, you know what? I wonder that was coming from over here. All right. Okay, that is better. So that might be just happening when I switch to the other camera, and so we'll see. All right, so let's kind of jump into this so we don't belabor the time. I do want to welcome everybody to the channel, man. And tonight is Bible study with the next pastor. Thank you so much, Rainbow Rat, inviting everybody back to Bible study with the next pastor, where we, learn the Bible and laugh at the bullshit. Interestingly enough, I posted a picture of myself with this on earlier today, and people were really confused. Like, what does that shirt say? And atheists, they were very confused. They wanted to make sure. So tonight I'm wearing it, I'm sporting it. You can see it. Everybody can see what it is. And then yesterday I got my first compliment on it. I wore it out in public and actually walked into a gas station. And then the attendant was like, I was so relieved to read the rest of the sentence. And I was like, oh, that is awesome. And so again, what do we do here? We learn the Bible, and we're going to laugh at the bullshit a little bit. Before I jump into all of my announcements and stuff, which I don't have a lot, but I do have some, I had got a message, and I'm always late on checking my my Facebook messages and stuff like that. Email, any of that. Like right now, I'm so far behind on comments till it's pathetic, right? Man, like it's horrible. Like I'd be 6 and 10 days behind, but I'm trying to catch back up. But I got a message from Jason Freer today, and so apparently Jason let me know, and I don't know if you're watching, Jason, but thank you. Let me know that somebody's on YouTube pretending to be me. They call themselves Darante LaMar 2, and they're commenting in my comments as me praying for folk. It is the weirdest thing ever, so I'll be looking into that later. Oh man, these believers, man, they're always giving you something to do, But anyway, for those of you who are watching, please let us know where you're watching from. I see 24 of you in the chat so far, and we've already have 42 views, so that is awesome. 17 of you have already voted. Go ahead and get that vote in. Is this your first time in Bible study with Darante LaMar? Nope or yow. I think that was supposed to be yes, but things happen. Things happen. That is wild, Rainbow Rat. That's what I said. Oh man, I missed an opportunity for a joke there. I missed an opportunity. But yes, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to make sure that we have you represented on our map as our community and our channel continues to grow. And then, of course, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. What's that thing? Yeah, like, share, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, man. Hit that alert notification bell so that way every time we go live, you'll get notified. I see Ohio in the chat. That's what I'm talking about. I used to travel to Ohio about two or three times out of the year to visit one of my mentors who was in the Cleveland area. Those are actually pretty good times. I don't have too many bad memories about that. Bible Belt, Kentucky. Melissa is in Raleigh. Oh man, this is a great moment. It's gonna come up in the announcements, but I'll go ahead and drop it in here. Because I got a little bit more control. I'm not using StreamYard tonight, so that's why things are a little different. But for those of you who are interested in the community aspect and building community, Building community beyond superstition, whether you're interested in building local community where you are, being a part of a local community where you are, or you're just interested in being a part of our growing online community, the global community, you can visit that website and let us know. We're about to simplify so much because I realize I've overcomplicated things. Not really. Yeah, Portland, Oregon in the house. Oregon is one of those. The Portland area is on the map. There are quite a few people in the area from Florida, but reside in Peach State, Georgia, Florida, Geechee. Yes, that's not too far from me. I'm right here in Alabama. Right here in Alabama, sweet home, Alabama. You know what they say. But no, that is absolutely awesome. I love that we're seeing so many people from different places. So if you want to be a part of that aspect, you can click that link in the chat, give us your information. You can also learn a little bit more about us. And when I say your information, it's really just your name and your email, and we're going to add you to our email list until you don't want to be on there anymore. This will help us garner interest. In the same way, we're going to be doing that with the online community as well. We're simplifying all because we had like 5 different forums. We got like 20 different channels in the server, and we're really about to simplify everything down. I've been hyper focused on trying to get community leaders and stuff like that because we've grown so fast. And, people are falling through the cracks, and that kind of breaks my heart a little bit because I know there are people who are really ready for community and to be ready to be a part. But the reality is our growth has just been unrealistic. And so we've just grown so fast. So over these last few weeks while I've been recalibrating, I've decided that I'm going to hyper-focus on content, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later on, but I'm going to hyper-focus on content, and then we're going to let the community continue to grow organically. And I'm actually going to talk about that some more in another video about how one of the most beautiful things that's happening with this channel is that we're seeing a lot of organic growth. Like when you drop into when I say organic, let me change that. We're seeing a lot of organic community is what I meant. So when you drop into our comment sections, many times, even if I haven't commented yet, if I haven't responded yet, there are hundreds of people in our comments who are in our comments who are there supporting other people, encouraging other people, helping people with tough questions. It is absolutely beautiful. So we're going to be leaning into that more and I'll be focusing more so on content, which will allow us to take a lot of pressure off of people who are like, what do I do? Especially when the numbers grow like ours from 52 to over 13,000 now and counting, right? We just celebrated 10,000 like 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. So it's beautiful. If y'all are out there with me, let your boy know. Drop some fire in the chat to let folks know it's going. Indiana, Levi. Man, it's an absolute beautiful community. All right, so let me hit some of these announcements so we can jump into Bible study tonight. First one, I don't know what you do in the mornings, but whether you're driving to work, whether you're sitting in the house doing nothing, whether you're taking care of somebody, I don't know. Whatever you do in the mornings, why don't you start making some time to catch the Daily Atheist Morning Show, where you will see me, you will see Chris Mallard, who's the host, and Ryan Kotasik, who's another one of the co-hosts, as myself. And we have a lot of good time. We come on there, we laugh, we joke, we talk about some serious things. It get intense. Sometimes Chris and I get really mad at each other, and I just walk off the set. Like it's really fun. So if you're looking for something to do, man, grab a cup of Joe, save a goat, watch the Daily Atheist Morning Show. Also, we have merch, man. We have some of the dopest merch out there. If you're interested in it, I'm going to share that link in the chat as well. Boom. Like this. Yoink. Rainbow Rat says they alert the damn show every morning they're able to. It's really a wonderful place, man, because it's just beautiful. You got to see it for yourself. And Cherry says she don't read. I'm laughing. I'm laughing my ass off, Cherry. I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna laugh. Y'all are too funny. I love y'all. And then, of course, again, I've already dropped the Bridge City Weekends link in there. But for those of you who the reason you come to this channel is because of the community aspect, and you say, I want to be a part of weekly community. That's why we do the Sunday sessions. That's why we do this secular Bible study. We have a few other shows that we're going to be adding to the channel that'll solely be focused on the community aspect. We're also building out the Bridge City Global channel that will be cutting up clips from our live shows and putting them over there so we can start building that out. So if you're interested in being a part of that aspect, building community beyond superstition, and I say that aspect because I told you I'm about to hyper focus on content, so you're about to be seeing all the sides of me. There will be more than just one way to get connected. But if you're interested in that aspect, you can visit that link. Oh man, glad to have you here, Mario. Yes. Who's one of our patrons, man. I love it when our patrons are in the chat. It's absolutely beautiful, which is a great time to remind you that if you're looking for a way to support this channel, if you're looking for a way to support me, if you're looking for a way just to give me a little pat on the back and say, bruh, keep going, Patreon and YouTube memberships are an easy way to do that. Patreon, you can join for free, or you can join for as low as $3, I think. So those are things there. But yeah, if you're interested in building community beyond superstition or being a part of community beyond superstition, you want to be a part of these Sunday sessions. You want these Sunday sessions to be where you are. You want the secular Bible studies or just secular meetups where you are. That's the link you want to jump onto, all right? Jump on that link and give us your information. And again, I told y'all I'm slowing down a little bit so I can hyper-focus on some other areas. So the good news is you don't have to feel the pressure of having to sign up for anything. You don't have to feel the pressure of having to volunteer for anything. I'm easing back on a lot of that. You don't have to feel any of that pressure. Just connect. Come get what you're trying to get from this community. Build your interests. Build what you understand. Work out your questions. And as this community grows, as we get people in place, then everything will work out smooth. All right. And then, I kind of hit the support the channel aspect earlier, but I'll hit it again. I hit it just because. Why did I hit it? I hit it for a reason. I wonder, am I going to be able to platform chats now? That's going to be different too. All right, so you can support the channel by joining Patreon, YouTube membership, or giving a one-time donation via YouTube, PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo. I did not put any of these links in my notes for tonight. So if we have any of our moderators who do have those links, please feel free to drop those when you can. Again, I'm using a different system tonight, so I don't have what I normally have. Kyle is in the chat. Yes. Oh, thank you, Muttley. Damn, that was fast. I just looked away, and there it is. I know someone said my sound may be weird for some. Let me see what my sound like in the ears. I don't want my sound to be sounding weird. I don't know. Now, I am in a garage, so you might be hearing some echo. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, let me move that. And let me see this. Let's switch to my other camera. And I'm going to see if that makes a difference. And if this other camera makes a difference, I know exactly what it is. And so I'll be watching the chat, what's going on there. All right, so I hit that. Thank y'all so much for dropping those in the chat. That was beautiful. Let's go on down. New content. We have new content that's coming out. We're still getting major reverb. Oh, Kyle hit them all. That was beautiful. All right, let's see here. I wonder, is that better? When I get close to the mic, is this camera that gives the bad echo? This camera. All right, so Now, what are you getting on this camera? What are you getting on this one? What are you getting there? All right. Hey, y'all, where we at? Still reverb? No, so it is both cameras. Thank you, Muttley. Which means I don't know what to say about that. Let me go. Let me see if I cut the mic down. How's that now? Because the mic was really high. Let's see what that's like. Cutting the mic down. Yeah. Crackling and reverb? I just don't know what that is. Properties. And then it goes back to echo. That is very odd. I wonder what that is. Let's try this. Testing 1, 2, 3. That's better. Just quiet now. Is it too quiet? Ba-ba. How about now? See, I see when it gets cut up like that way, I can start hearing the echo a little bit too. All right, I'll keep monitoring the chat. So we have some new content coming up. Nope, it's just one mic. We have some new content coming up. I wonder y'all hear me coming out of the monitors. That could be. So let me And now it's no sound. So it's not that part. So I don't know. I wonder about what about now? Yikes. If you are streaming, I am streaming through OBS goat holders. What's a goat holder? What is a goat holder? That's where I went with that. Oh man. We tried and the prayer didn't work. You know, the prayer worked the first time and then it just kicked back out. You know, that's what it is. Oh, so we're perfect now? Oh, we're good? All right. All right. So it's just the desktop audio playing, and I'm guessing all right, perfect. All right, let's keep this show going. So y'all missed it's just a lot quieter. Dang it. All right. Well, I think I can cut the mic back up now if we were yay. All right, so new segments. We have some new stuff coming to the channel. One of the biggest things, oh, let me take these out so I don't hear the echo in my voice because that's going to make me talk really slow. All right, so we're going to be doing a new segment called Keep Rising, and that's going to be an interview segment. I've not done interview segments on the channel, primarily because, you know, like everybody's doing deconstruction stories and they're really, really good at it. And so I don't really necessarily want to jump on anybody else's wagon or do what anybody else is doing. And I want to do something where I'm actually going to be, you know, sincerely interested in the story. So we're going to be starting a segment as soon as I can pull together a list of people to interview called Keep Rising. And in this, I want to be talking to people about how they're succeeding without superstition, how they're making it without magic, how they're triumphing without tradition, just ultimately how they are choosing to rise without religion. And that could be personally, professionally, financially, emotionally, hell, sexually, because the big idea would be for them to share some principles, some tips, and some hacks, man, from their stories that may help others, you know. And it won't just be it won't just be atheist with a hard A that I'll be interviewing for this. I'll be choosing people who are atheists, agnostics, even people who are believers but are no longer traditional believers. I want to talk to everybody about how they're dealing with life after any type of deconstruction from tradition or superstition. And so I think that that's going to be great. That's going to be great. Awesome. I love it. I love it. So y'all let me know how y'all feel about that. Are y'all excited about the idea of the Keep Rising segment? Is that something you're going to be interested in? Do you want to hear the stories of the people? Do you want to hear stories of people who are doing well after they've deconverted in any area, you know, emotionally? Again, because these are big areas. It's like these are the questions you get. How do you do this after this? How do you bounce back from this? And I want to find some people who are doing well in key areas. You don't have to have it all together in all the areas, but if you've said, you know what, money, I'm still, you know, fucked up in, but my relationship with my family has never been better. Here's how I navigated that. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, hey, my shit with my family is all over the place, but money, I got 99 problems and money ain't one. Here's how I navigated that, you know. Whatever it is, you know, or sexuality, you know, hey, I struggled with things because of purity culture for the longest, but now since I've deconverted, I'm triumphing without tradition and I'm more sexual than I've ever been. Whatever it is, I think there are treasure trove of stories out there for that. And I want to find them and I want to bring them to you. So that's exciting. That's exciting. I'm going to try to change cameras just to test this. If the audio goes bad, I'll switch back to the other one. I just like being able to do this stuff. Got to play with the new stuff, right? I haven't used OBS in years, as a matter of fact. All right, so another one, new content, right? We got 99 problems and God ain't one. Yes. Damn, now I want to rap. All right. So another one that I'm going to do, and this is something that I've been, and punching up. Yes, I love that, Kyle. This is something that I've been thinking about for a while, especially after I partnered with Jason to do the content creator masterclasses, where we really just let him bring us some information that is awesome. It's going back to the echo. All right, so I'm going to switch back over. All right. And I actually know what to do now. So beautiful. That's going to be easy now. All right, but I'll stay over here. And you just saw that reminder to like, share, and subscribe. But he went and talked about, he did give us a lot of technical help, man. And I mean, it was just really, really good information. Soundproofing, sound absorbing, oh, now is the echo, audio went bad immediately. Now, how did we fix it? And it's bad. It should be back now. It should be back. Echo should not be. Okay, let me go back here. I'm not going to get through these announcements, am I? I shared this. Thank you so much, Muttley. I appreciate that. All right, let me see if I can hear. I don't know. Y'all let me know. All right, I'm just going to keep talking until y'all say something. But because of that, he gave us a lot of perfect. So he gave us a lot of great information, and it got me thinking, like, man, you know what? I think I want to actually spend some time sharing from my growth journey, right? Again, I wanted us to focus in those on the technical stuff, which are the things that I really can't speak to. I can tell you a few things, but I can't speak to you, as you can tell, about your audio quality, your video quality, your lighting quality, or any of those things. And as a matter of fact, those are things that I purposefully plan on not being an expert in. I'm a very team-oriented person, and part of that is because I'm trying to build community. I realize that I've created a little hole for myself as a content creator for now. But no, those are not the areas I necessarily hyper focus on, but those are really good areas, and they're very important if you want to build quality content. But then I realize one of the things that I can talk to is actually growing your content. And so one of the things, one of the videos that I'm working on right now, and it'll likely be a series of videos. I may even turn this one into a course, but it'll be how to grow your channel, you know, and it'll be, I'll be literally walking through what I've done over this past year to grow from 52 to over 13,000 and counting subscribers. And I'll be kind of sharing some insight into what I think has been working, and perhaps how maybe you can use some of that stuff to boost your growth, some for those of you who are looking for that. And what I'll be dealing with on this one is understanding your unique value proposition, how to craft a winning content strategy, how to master engagement and audience interaction. And man, I got some stuff for you there. We'll talk about the science of discoverability, leveraging viral moments and collaborations, consistency and content planning, monetization and building a brand beyond YouTube. And then, really, the most important one to me is staying authentic and adapting to growth, which are absolutely critical. So, is that something that y'all would be interested in? Y'all tell me, is that something? Because these are new things. These are a little different. And so I need to know. Is this, would y'all be excited about hearing me walk through the details of what I've done over the past year and share some things that can be transferable to the work that you're doing? So no matter where you are, no matter what level your YouTube channel is on or whatnot, you can walk away from that conversation with some practical tips, whether it's improving your SEO, improving your discoverability. Y'all let me know. Okay. All right, so that's there. And this other new content that I'm dropping and that I've been working on, my script is together. I now just have to start recording it. I am doing my first documentary. I think I've mentioned this to y'all before, but I am doing my first documentary, man. And this one is going to be called "The African Traditions Behind Abrahamic Religions." This is going to be interesting. See, there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to Africa's connection to the Bible. That's often used to recruit people into identity cults like the Black Hebrew Israelites and people of the such. And then there's a lot of overlooked information just due to others not having a cultural point of reference. So this is my attempt to kind of add some nuance to that conversation. And I'm really just going to read a write-up about the documentary as we're putting together, just to see if you're interested. This documentary uncovers the deep African influences that shaped the origins of Israelite identity, challenging traditional narratives that overlooked Africa's foundational role in biblical history, from Egypt's dominance over Canaan and the Exodus cultural implications to the African ancestry of key biblical figures. The documentary examines how African traditions, including circumcision, priesthood, and divine kingship, were absorbed into Israelite theology. By tracing Egyptian and Cushite religious syncretism, the presence of African rulers in biblical history, and the overlooked legacy of Ethiopian and Coptic Christianity, this documentary explores Africa as a central force in the social and cultural formation of ancient Israel and the early church. What do y'all think about that? This one is gonna be interesting, and I don't know how people are gonna respond to it, but I'm excited. I'm super excited about that. All right. So I'm using a different system, so I can't tell how long I've been streaming. I don't have my little clock, But normally I know, okay, you've been in the introduction for a while. But I have been in the introduction for a while. Of course, we had some technical difficulties that we had to work through. Thank you, Rainbow Wrath. I'm glad that is something that sounds fascinating. By the way, y'all, if y'all haven't click the question, is this your first time here with Bible study? There's a little question in the chat. You click on that thing. Let us know here. I like to track stuff like that. And in the content thing that we talked about, how I grew my channel, that'll be one of the things we'll definitely been talking about. Oh, perfect. All right, so the last thing I'm hitting is Patreon, right? If you're not a member of our Patreon, hey, we're running an absolute great sale right now. Check it out. They're all the same. No, but you can become a patron. Progressive Survival Guide, Progressive Supply Pack, Progressive Service Award. You get complete post archives, early access to content, your questions answered on air, which I have to get some questions answered. I think I got 6 questions that I owe people. Your name is mentioned in our content, which you typically see in our credits. Digital ebook at another level. So you get we got a whole bunch of stuff out there. So y'all check that out. All right. Are y'all ready to jump into Bible study? Tonight, I'm going to do my best. I am going to do my best to get through some chapters. And because of that, and again, also because I'm using a different system, because I'm using a different system tonight, I'm not going to screen share right now. I don't want to mess anything up right now. We're just going to, you got to read your own Bible, goddammit. Read your own Bible tonight. And if you haven't shared this stream yet, go ahead and share it now. If you've already shared it, share it again and say, hey, we're starting now. That other shit was fluff. He's done all the announcements. For those of you that aren't interested in the community stuff, you just come to learn the Bible and laugh at the bullshit. This is your moment. This is your moment. Right, Rainbow Wrath? More than one this time. And so tonight we're in Leviticus chapter 20. And Leviticus 20 is, if I could name this, right, don't touch anything. If I could name this anything, I'd name this Yahweh's ultimate cancel list. So we're naming these chapters, the Super Chris has arrived. Oh, man. That's right. If you want to buy or donate to help provide better quality, contact Kyle at kyle.bridge@dldd.us. That's what I'm talking about. You see what I'm saying? That's how you do it. That's how you do it. We like the type of advice that comes with open hands. You know what I'm saying? You know, I love open-handed advice. That's helpful. That's helpful. We need it. Like, actually, I do need a new laptop, but that's a whole nother other thing. But no. So we're talking about Yahweh's ultimate cancel list tonight. Leviticus 20 is the enforcement manual for many of the commands laid out in Leviticus 18 and 19. If those were the rules, these are the consequences. Here, the Hebrew deity doesn't just prohibit certain actions. He ensures that violators get dealt with. You know, they get handled either by community execution, exile, or a divine slow burn punishment. Now, from a secular humanist perspective, this chapter offers a fascinating look into the ancient justice systems, religious fear tactics, and social control mechanisms, many of which have persisted in religious communities to this day. Meanwhile, in churches like that I came from, the urban contemporary churches, this chapter is mostly cherry-picked and selectively ignored. Some of these rules are harshly defended, especially against LGBTQ plus community, while others, like the death penalty for adultery or cursing parents, are conveniently explained away as Old Testament law that no longer applies. Tonight, we're going to kind of break this down and walk through this. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? I wish I was super. Oh, I love it. The Super Kyle has arrived. We can all be super. Oh, man. Oh, that's a great chapter name. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. All right, so let's get this James Earl Jones on. We're in Leviticus chapter 20. I'm going to start with verse 1. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, you shall also say to the sons of Israel, anyone from the sons of Israel or from the strangers residing in Israel who gives any of his children to Molech shall certainly be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. I will also set my face against that man and will cut him off from among his people. But because he has given some of his children to Molech, so as to defile my sanctuary and to profane my holy name. Now, if the people of the land, however, should ever disregard that man when he gives any of his children to Molech, so as to not put him to death, then I myself will set my face against that man and against his family, and I will cut off from among their people, both him and all those who play the prostitute with him by playing the prostitute with Molech. All right, so there is quite a bit to unpack in this already about not changing the law but enforcing it, meaning the Old Testament still applies. Absolutely. Jesus says he didn't come to destroy the Old Testament. He said he came to fulfill it, you know. And then I think there's another place where it said that heaven and earth will not pass away until all of the word is fulfilled, you know. Molech. I like the name Molech. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. And scholars debate. And typically when it comes to stuff like when it comes to biblical stuff, when scholars are debating, especially when there's like at least when there's 3 or 4 different possibilities, what that tells you, at least from me, and I'm a little harsh with stuff like this, that tells you nobody knows shit and they just making it up, right? And I find that unnecessary. I wish we'd sometimes just say I don't know. So the right answer when it comes to Molech is we don't quite know. Some people assert that Molech is another god. We haven't necessarily found that out. Others have asserted, which I think this one may be close to accurate, is that Molech was, well, I don't know which one is, but Molech was a type of sacrifice. But there's some things to distinguish here, just in those first 5 verses, is that something is very clear. Something is very clear. And that is, especially in this language, and I'm going from the NAACP, NAACP, NWA, whatever else you want to go. But I'm coming from the NASB, New American Standard Bible. And this wording is very interesting, and I think it's pretty true to form, because what it highlights here is it's not highlighting that, oh, you're sacrificing your children. I like the way they flowered up this language. It's you're giving your children to Molech. Because again, the God that we've seen in the Bible so far is not against child sacrifice. As a matter of fact, remember, this is something that he does to test people. He tests people by saying, hey, go sacrifice your child. Nah, you ain't got to do it this time. I was just seeing if you were going to do it. You know what I'm saying? But so again, the crime that's being highlighted here is that anyone who sacrifices a child to Molech, anybody who gives a child to Molech. Remember when the people were coming out of Egypt, God commanded that they all give him their firstborns. That was a command. For those of you who don't know what that meant, it means the same thing that it means here. He wanted them to kill their firstborn. And when you read this story thinking that it's somehow supposed to be a standard of morality, you start pearl clutching really quick. It's like, oh no. But once you situate these stories right back into the fandom that they represent, or right even back into the socio-cultural context that they represent, it'd be like, oh yeah, no duh, we knew people were doing this shit. Yes, and we know that that's not stuff that we should be doing, and that in no way does this, exemplify any form of morality. So again, God is not mad that they're sacrificing children, from a biblical perspective. This God that we've seen so far, he doesn't value children that way. Children don't have any value because they can't contribute to his slave factory. They can't they can't contribute to his garden project. They can't contribute to, people bringing him goat meat. You know what I'm saying? Or goat scent. Sorry, not the meat, just the scent. So he doesn't want anybody, it's basically like, if I can't have them, can't nobody have them. It's that type of thing. This is not a law and crime about the preservation of life. This is a law and crime about jealousy. Don't be giving nobody else the same thing that you've given me. You know what I'm saying? That's what that is. You know what I'm saying? It's like, some of you who got your sneaky links, some of you who got your multiple partners, some of you who are polyamorous, you're a little more casual. You may know what that's like. You have people that there are certain things that I do with you that I don't do with anybody else. That's what this is kind of like. This is like, nah, that's just something y'all supposed to do with me. Again, this is not about preservation of life. And the proof of that is the response to this is the destruction of more life, right? That's when the goal isn't preservation of life. If the response is the destruction of more life, the goal was never preservation of life. I think that tracks pretty well. I mean, I don't think that takes rocket science to see. And so I said, they got to be stoned to death. So if the community fails to act, Yahweh will personally wipe them out along with their entire family. You know what I'm saying? Right. Pleasing aromas are Yahweh's favorite aside from unjustly punishing people on earth. Oh God, I love that. Yes. Yes. You know? And so again, there's this idea of Molech and what he's represented is hotly debated of whether it's a god or whether it's just a certain type of practice. But honestly, when it came to it being interpreted as a certain type of practice, that was to defend this idea that God was against child sacrifice altogether. And again, like there's no biblical defense for that assertion. And even later in the Bible, we see that the children of Israel continue to practice child sacrifices. We see that when the children of Israel goes through a famine, they often consider eating their children. And then we've also seen that when Jephthah won a battle and decided to sacrifice something or promised to God that he'd sacrifice first thing that came out of his house, it was his daughter, and he did it, and there was no God intervention. So yeah, God is okay. So now in the churches that I came from, we avoided this stuff like the plague. This wasn't stuff that we really wanted to preach about. If anything, we'd reference this stuff as, which is asinine when you think about it. We'd reference this stuff as in a way of saying, you should be thankful. This is why you should be grateful that you're under grace. This is why you should be grateful that you're covered by the blood of Jesus. This is why you should be grateful that God sent his only begotten son and allowed him to be horrendously slain on your behalf before the foundations of the world to take your sins away so that you don't have to put up with this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how we'd kind of approach that. But you really kind of think about how asinine that is, because we'd preach that proudly, unapologetically, unashamedly, and out of the same mouth say stuff like, and we serve a God who never changes. We serve a God who is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. We serve a God that within him there is no shadow of turning. Like we'd unashamedly say that, but then also preach in a way that you should thank God that God has changed. Like, I don't like, wow. Like, it's very interesting. Very interesting. Yep. No, we don't like that chapter. Skip to the good part. Skip to the good part. And it's like, but that's how you that's how you reinforce the dissonance and the ideology. Because again, one of the things that I've asserted, in a lot of my content, especially, I deal more with the evangelical Christians, the charismatic Christians, the active Christians. There are different types of believers out there, right? I don't really speak too much for the believers who are part of the more, as we would have called them in my day, the frozen chosen groups. Like, I don't really speak for those. Those churches, I would not be able to accurately reflect what their experiences were like. I'd be wrong. I could make some pretty educated guesses. But like, for me to tell you what's going on in a Lutheran church or a Nazarene church or an Episcopal church, again, I could only tell you from what I've studied, and what I've learned, what I've heard from word of mouth, from the few times that I've been invited to speak at some of those churches. But the thing that that I'm the most masterful in communicating are those charismatic evangelical, those more active churches where it wasn't just about a devotional relationship or a ritual relationship where you do this every now and then and you sit calmly and then you go home. And honestly, some of those churches sometimes end up being more healthy. But ours were more so about having an active relationship with God, and where God is actively doing something through you and with you every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, my motto, like all throughout high school and the early part of my ministry, was that every day I am either leading people to hell or I'm leading people to heaven. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by active. And so for us, we were always trying to find a way to flip this, because the majority of the people who came into those type of church circles, you were already told that God was good before you ever read the Bible. You were already told that God was good before you were ever allowed to critique a sermon. Like, you're not allowed to critique a sermon. And again, that's why our tagline is "Learn the Bible, laugh at the bullshit," right? Because that's the freedom that I want people to have. So this isn't necessarily, there are other channels out there, and I partner with those. You know what I'm saying? I partner with those, right? Isn't that a burden, right? I partner with other people like Jason who are going to give you like deep historical dives into that. There's people like Derek Lambert who does that. I am always, for the most part, I'm going to take a more sociological approach because honestly, that's my specialty. That's where I come, and it's the thing that I'm most interested in. Right. All right. So I'm coming. Oh man, it's all up to you to spread the word and save people. All up to little old me. Well, definitely, I had a savior complex, right? I had a savior complex. I had a martyr syndrome. I was carrying the weight of the world because it was all on me. Talk about visions of grandeur, delusions of grandeur, all of that stuff. But it was definitely it was a lot of pressure. But that was the promise, was that God was going to make you a superhero. That's the charismatic promise, is that God is going to use you to save the world. But then you just think about it, like using that type of language can really demonstrate how weak and useless this God character really is. Because, like, could you imagine if Superman is getting ready to save some people in a burning building and he swoops in, he flies in, the building is on fire, people are screaming, help, help, help me. People are screaming, and Superman swoops in and he says, I'll help you. But before I do, are you willing to accept me as your Lord and Savior? Like, what kind of crazy stuff is that? No. Before I help you, you have to pray. Have you prayed? Like, no, God is the worst superhero in the world. All right, so we've only gotten through 5 verses, so let me keep going here a little bit. I did want to highlight this other thing, though, that you see in verse 4 and 5, because it's not just if he does this, this is what you're supposed to do. If anybody does this, you're supposed to stone them. It's also this additional pressure, and if you don't stone them, you know what I'm saying? Then I'm going to destroy all of you. You know, like, I'm going to set my face against that man and against his family. Like, yikes. And so it's that additional pressure of, watch this, this is good. It's that additional pressure of, you're stoning him to save his family. If you do not stone him, poof, if you do not stone him, you are putting his family in danger. So by doing this, it's helping him. Like, so you see that evangelicalism in operation even way back when, especially this idea where, no, I'm doing this to actually help you. This is why these people jump in the comments. This is why somebody is literally masquerading as me in my comments, praying for people, because in their mind, I have to do this to help them. I have to be a jerk to help other people. I have to be a jackass to help other people. I have to be asinine, pushy, and intrusive and invasive to help other people, because if I don't, it's going to be worse for them. You see that pathology there. All right. So let's look at let's make it through verses 6. Okay. So verse 6, as for the person watching from Canada. Oh, I love that. I love that. Concrete foundation begin. Yep, all to the reality. All right, so as for the person who turns to mediums and the spiritists to play the prostitute with them, I will also set my face against that person and will cut them off from among his people. Verse 7, you shall consecrate yourselves, therefore, and be holy, for I am the Lord your God. So you shall keep my statutes and practice them. I am the Lord who sanctifies you. If there is anyone who curses his father or his mother, he shall certainly be put to death. He has cursed his father or his mother. He has brought death on himself. All right, so I want to hit this a little bit, especially about the mediums and the spiritists, because this is often a slippery slope. Often a slippery slope in Christian theology. We're in Leviticus chapter 20. So this is a slippery slope in Christian theology, because then people wonder, then what exactly is the difference between a psychic and a prophet? And that's a real question in Christendom. But a part of that comes from what a prophet is changes over time. And in the Bible, at least. And so, for the most part, by far and large, we haven't been introduced to prophets yet in the in the Old Testament. So in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, even though Moses is often called a prophet, and we'll talk a little bit about that more in Deuteronomy, but up until this point in the story, the idea of prophets themselves, we've only seen one that I can think of, and I could be wrong because it's possible. But I think the only person we've seen with the prophet in their title in the Old Testament so far is Joseph's wife, Asenath, who's an Egyptian. That's the first person. So we do see that this idea of prophets, at least as of now, isn't baked into Israelite culture yet, but we definitely see the prerequisite for it in Egyptian culture there. Man, Southern Baptists will say one's power is the devil and one is God's power. That's exactly it. One gets theirs from the devil and the other gets theirs from God. That's crazy. I feel like I missed a comment. I got to figure out how to get these. I know how to. I just got to set it up the next time. Oh, I love this. Yep. Clinical psychology, criminology are my academic background, so I've seen it for decades and daily. Wow. Yes. All right. Dominance equals strength. Psych. I love that. So you don't see the actual role of the prophetic as the way it's seen in many churches today in the Old Testament yet. It's just not in the narrative yet. It's gonna come for sure, but as of now, the only place we've seen it, unless I'm wrong, and I could be, the only place we've seen it is in Egypt. And as of yet, nobody who identifies as Israelite has been given that moniker or has even done anything like that. I think the closest we can get to is Jacob, who has some visions, and Joseph, who has a dream or interprets dreams and has dreams. But notice that that word is never used to describe them. In the charismatic circles, we considered Joseph prophetic for sure. But I struggled with that in my early days because it was like, but the Bible doesn't necessarily call him prophetic. And then that's when you get into call him a prophet. And that's when you get into this slippery slope of realizing how loosely the word prophet gets defined and how much it changes. So sometimes a prophet is a person who predicts the future. Other times, a prophet is just a person who says something important, another time a prophet is just a person who like Moses never predicted the future. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes a prophet is just somebody who does miracles, so then it just becomes like, what? And so as of now, from Genesis to Leviticus, Israel has no prophets yet. Moses is technically going to be the first prophet, and that's what they're kind of establishing now, but we see more of that in Deuteronomy. But then even in his role as prophet, you're going to see how Moses's role of prophet is very different than what you see in the rest of the Old Testament, and especially different than what you see in the New Testament. And then you'll also see in Deuteronomy that just in behind the writing itself, and I'm supposed to be in Leviticus, but you'll also see in Deuteronomy that the idea of God as a manifested being is not as present in Deuteronomy as it is in the other books. And so it tells a very different story. Deuteronomy reads very well with Nehemiah. I like if you're doing like just a secular Bible study yourself, and you're like, I want to take two books and I just want to pull those two books together. Deuteronomy, Nehemiah, and of course, you may want to include Ezra in that as well. But Deuteronomy, Nehemiah, fascinating stuff. All right, so prophets, witches, the reason why they're like no witches, no prophets, or no witches, no mediums, and even though in the Christian worldview we say this is a delineation from prophets, the prophetic in that manner doesn't exist yet. So this is literally anybody who's claiming to speak for anything, and you'll see, and we'll see that split come up later. With Nathan, who is a prophet in David's lifetime. So we'll see that. All right, so we've read through that. Let's get through a little bit of this. They'll talk a little bit about that more in verse 27. We're going to get through a chapter. God damn it, we may make it to 2. All right, so now in verse 9, we get to the part about anyone who curses their parents must be executed, right? So this is a very terrifying power dynamic, one that as a species and as a segment of the society that has been deeply steeped into much of this ideology, this has created an absolute control as far as a power dynamic between parents and their children. And even Jesus kind of references this law approvingly in Mark chapter 7, meaning that he didn't consider this an outdated concept. Now, of course, in modern time, no pastor is really, I don't want to say no pastor. Most pastors are not out here preaching spare the rod, stone the child. You know what I'm saying? In urban churches tend to emphasize honor your parents, but without the death clause. Now, what we did tend to do in these is still use these ideas of no, beating kids is still biblically acceptable. God is the one who wants us to do that because, the way we look at it, God is beating us. God chastises those whom he loves. And so because we learn love from God, then if we really love our children, we should be chastising them, Man, this is good. Oh, yeah. Old tribal sense, yeah. Basically decided how societies and social groups will be controlled. It goes way back. Man, they like to make up stories. I like that. And then, of course, now we're getting into verse 10. So let's jump down here. If there is a man who commits adultery with another man's wife, one who commits adultery with his friend's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress must be put to death. All right. So the adulterer and the adulteress. If there is a man who sleeps with his father's wife, he has uncovered his father's nakedness. Wait a damn minute. Wait a minute. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 11 says, if there is a man who sleeps with his father's wife, he has uncovered his father's nakedness. Now, typically, when we're reading Leviticus, we don't think about Genesis, and when we're reading Genesis, we don't think about Leviticus. But there is this very pivotal story in the book of Genesis where this exact same language is used, where someone uncovers their father's nakedness. Do y'all remember that story? The story has been told over and over and over again, and it's been used to support scientific racism in many cases. But it's the story of Noah and his sons. And remember, I think it's Ham that comes in, and the Bible says in the book of Genesis that Ham uncovers his father's nakedness. And many pastors have had fun speculating what that could possibly mean, how he could possibly, what he could be possibly doing. And we've talked about all types of things, but now we see that at least one of the possibilities is that he slept with his mama. He's a mofo. I don't know if y'all have ever seen, Horrible Bosses? He's motherfucker Jones. Ham was motherfucker Jones. You know what I'm saying? Because Ham impregnated, if there's a man who sleeps with his father's wife, he has uncovered his father's nakedness. Now, I'm gonna take some time because I never cared about it that much before, and it's funny how much more interesting these things become when you're no longer a believer. Because it's like now I want to be accurate, right? I want to know, like, is this the only thing that this could have meant, or is this just one of the many ways you could uncover your father's nakedness? Because remember, when Absalom was trying to lead a rebellion against David, I think it was David. Absalom is one of David's sons. Yeah. When Absalom wanted to rebel against David, one of the things he did was to take his father's wife on the top of the palace and, have a little afternoon delight. Now, I don't know if it was his mama, but it was definitely one of his father's wives, which that is the delineation here. It sleeps with his father's wife, so maybe that's not necessarily the mama, but the mama would qualify for this as well. But so they must both be put to they must both be put to the death. So the mama and the mama fucker, both of them got to be put to death. I'm a mama fucker. That's such a funny way to say it, mama fucker. Like there was a movie that you know, like when they do the BET movie, sometimes they censor out the words, and somebody was like, motherfucker, please. And they bleeped it out and changed it to motivator, please. And I was like, you know what? I'm not mad. Normally I can't stand those things, but that one, I was like, I'll go for it. All right, and then so verse 12 in chapter 20, if there's a man who sleeps with his daughter-in-law, both of them must be put to death. They have committed incest and have brought their own deaths upon themselves. The man sleeps with his daughter-in-law, both of them must be put to death. They have committed incest. Well, there's a few people in the book of Genesis who are very grateful that this law didn't exist yet, you know? And there's some, like, this is the first time they're calling out incest. It's very interesting. Verse 13, if there's a man who sleeps with a male, as those who sleep with a woman, both of them have committed a detestable act. They must be put to death. They have brought their own deaths upon themselves. All right, now see that wording there, that phraseology is very interesting. So far we've talked about adultery, you know, even though sex scandals in the church are often ignored, you know, and adultery doesn't get what it used to get, right? You know what I'm saying? Like adultery used to be like really bad. I mean, we had that whole, you know, scarlet letter type of thing. And now like gospel singers be pregnant all the time by people who ain't they people. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it happens and it's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? Like it's literally not. Like the only people in church, in the churches, in the popular churches, who really care about who people are sleeping with, other than people in the private community, are just old people. You know what I'm saying? And most times it's because they not getting none. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody piping them cobwebs, so they sitting up there dusty and disappointed. Now that should be a whole book. I want to see that soap opera, Dusty and Disappointed. Be about a whole bunch of old church ladies who just spend their whole day being mad at all the other little young ladies out there, you know, getting tooted and booted and all that stuff, and they just sit there and be dusty and disappointed. I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna write the script. It's gonna happen, whether you like it or not. You don't even have to ask for it. It's coming. Dusty and Disappointed. It's gonna be the new version of Golden Girls. You know what I'm saying? Like this is gonna be, it's gonna be amazing. Gonna be amazing. I got so many visuals running through my head now. Like, oh damn, oh damn. Okay. And so now we get to verse 13, which is, to be clear, is not about homosexuality. It's about a very specific type of male homosexuality. It doesn't say, it doesn't give a caveat for women, right? You know, dusty and disappointed. You know, next time somebody come to you trying to talk about somebody else's sex life, you just look them straight in the eye and said, "Oh, you must be dusty and disappointed." You know what I'm saying? You must be I think there's a special place on Craigslist where you can get that fixed. You can get that attended to. If you're dusty and disappointed, there's a place for you. I heard they give out like $40 specials. I mean, I'm not advertising, but I'm just saying. I've heard. See them making patchwork quilts? Yes. Oh my goodness, I love it. Rainbow Rat said it's fun here. I love it, y'all. I love it. We've had 216 views already. That is beautiful, man. All right, so we get into this, and it's literally if a man sleeps with a woman as those who sleep with a woman, which that language is so weird. So what if a man sleeps with a man as those who sleep with a woman? And I think we got that before. Like, what do you do if a man sleeps with a man as those who sleep with a man? Are you safe then? Are you okay then? It's only detestable, which I think we may have talked about this on the Daily Atheist Morning Show one time. Or no, I think we talked about it in Bible study with, I think Ember brought this up, is that the issue here is the reception. You know, is the you know, you're supposed to be a giver only, not a receiver. And like I remember, like even in my community, it was like it's an exit only, like the booty is exit only, you know, type of thing. And so, but the wording is very interesting here, and partly because a lot of times we anachronistically superimpose what we think about the world today on what people who came before us had to think about the world then. In a glaring, in a lot of cases, we turn out to be wrong. And this is happening like even right now a lot of anthropology is being overhauled because we're realizing that there's a lot of things that we put up as academia that was just assumptions, but it's like the further you go back, the less you care. But that's changing, That's changing. Yeah, topping is okay apparently, You just can't be the one receiving. You have to be the one putting it in, you know. I don't know, you know. Whipped cream goes on top. Hello. All right, so and it's interesting here because lesbians are completely absent here. So all you lesbians out there, you're safe. God is okay with you. But you know what? I think we all kind of knew that. I think we all kind of knew that. No. So and then this likely did tie to some Canaanite temple practices. Had very little to do with relationships. A common theme you're seeing in this chapter, and you even see the word used, is prostitution, right? And so again, this is not necessarily about purity, what's better, or preserving relationships, or what's healthy, or even life preservation. This is about control, you know. Of course, we know these verses are uh, these this verse is the most quoted verse from the chapter, verse 13, and it's completely ignored by progressive churches and weaponized by conservative ones. And this is why I'm glad that there are progressive. I'm not gonna say I'm glad. I'm glad for them that there are progressive churches out there. Like I'm glad you see that there is some really harmful stuff in the Bible, and that you should stay away from. I am not glad that you don't realize that you're still teaching from the same book. Like that blows my mind. Like how do you do that? Like that in itself is not an exercise in logic. That in itself is not an exercise in health. That in itself is not an exercise in concern. That sounds to me like somebody who says, like, I know this is absolute bullshit, and I know that this has been used to harm people, and I know that this is damaging, but because it's my favorite blankie, I still want to hold it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of what I think of, when I think of it in that way. And I'm like, no, you know, if you're gonna do that, if I think the only way I could respect, like, no, I can't, because I don't see Jesus as a good guy. So like that's why to me there is no such thing as a progressive Christian if Jesus is still the model. If Jesus is the model, he's the bad person. He's the bad person. You know what I'm saying? All right. So, and again, let's move on from this. Mind you, adultery is mentioned in this, right? But we're not out here calling adultery an abomination. Adultery is mentioned in this. You know what I'm saying? It's mentioned. It's here. But that's not what everybody's talking about. You know, if we cared about adultery the way we cared about the pride community, then the current person who's president wouldn't have been qualified by, well, damn, every biblical standard. And I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure this person is safe from verse 13. All right. So anyway, let's continue. Now let's kind of get on down here. We talked about incest and stuff. If there's a man who marries a woman and her mother, it is an outrageous sin. Both he and they shall be burned with fire. If he marries a woman and her mother, they shall be burned with fire. Can someone tell me where the hell did this one come from? You married the woman and her mother. Like, out of all the things that the Bible is mad at, this one, and I'm not trying to advocate for this shit. I'm not. I promise you I'm not. I'm just saying this one stands out as odd to me. Like, there has to be something else behind this, right? All right, so if there's a man who has sexual intercourse with an animal, he must be put to death, and you got to kill the animal because, who wants to live after that, If there is a woman who approaches any animal to mate with it, you shall kill the woman and the animal, and they must be put to death. They brought their own deaths upon themselves. If there's a man who takes his sister, his father's daughter or his mother's daughter, so that he sees her nakedness and she sees his nakedness, it is a disgrace, and they shall be cut off in the sight of the sons of the people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness. He bears his guilt. There's a man. Okay, so then does not this mean that all of the patriarchs if my memory serves me correct, with the exception of Joseph, are disgraceful because all of them are sister marriers. If my memory, I know Abraham is, and I want to say he literally sent Isaac back. Well, Isaac didn't marry his sister, but he married a close relative. They all married close relatives. But Abraham definitely married his sister. It's stressed in the Bible. So now then, if the founding patriarch is considered disgraceful by God, which again shows you that the God character of Leviticus is somehow, if we were to read this as this God character is the same God from Genesis to Leviticus, then this God has complete amnesia about his relationship with Abraham. You know what I'm saying? But the truth of the matter is, this God is like a comic character in the sense that this God becomes whatever the new story writer determines that they'll become, you know? And I talked about that in my most recent video, shameless plug, you know, when talking about how the church is just cosplay, it's headcanon. So for some people, Superman can't die. That's your headcanon. But that means you've never read Superman Doomsday. You know what I'm saying? Like, Superman has died a lot of ways, a lot of times, you know? Some people believe Batman will never kill anybody. That's his one code. That's your headcanon. I like that phrase, headcanon, right? So God is like the same way. Yeah. So every time you see him in a different writing, he doesn't have the memory of the author of, yeah, there it is. So no matter how many times you write Superman, every time you write Superman, Superman doesn't get the memories of everybody who else wrote him. He only has what that author has. And this is the telltale sign of a fiction story. This is how you know God's hand is not involved, because God doesn't even remember what he is doing from story to story, because he's a character. He's not a contributing factor. This is good stuff. Damn it. Oh, yay. It was one, you know, that video was really fun to do. I did not think it was going to do as well as it did, as well as it's doing. And so, like, you never know. And that's, for those of you who create content, that's a perfect segue. There's not this thing where you just automatically know what's going to hit and what's not going to hit. You have to put everything up. You know what I'm saying? If you only take the shots that you're for sure are going to go in, then you're never going to take any shots. And that's the whole thing. It's learning to build that muscle, and then learning to get information from what you're finding out. And that's feedback in the comments, and that's also those analytics, seeing what people are saying, seeing why people are sharing, you know. All right, so back to regularly scheduled program, because we're going to make it to this chapter, goddammit. What time is it? All right, yeah, we're doing good, man. We're doing good. So we've slipped up on a few things in this. Like, we've learned that one of the ways you can uncover your father's nakedness is by sleeping with his wife, which gives us all questions for Ham. You know what I'm saying? And then we also figured out that God doesn't like, people marrying their fathers or their mother's daughters. Like, it doesn't matter which one of them it is, you shouldn't be doing it. But it's funny because God never told that to Abraham, you know. So God is, again, changing. Verse 18, if there's a man who sleeps with a menstruous woman. I like that. Menstruous. Are you a menstruous woman? We actually found out that God's kryptonite is menstruation. He cannot stand it. You got to get it away from him. Yes, God is obsessed with nakedness. Remember, Adam and Eve get kicked out of the garden. See, some of y'all think they got kicked out of the garden because they bit the fruit. God was willing to forgive that. I'm telling you, me and him have talked personally. I know the guy. He was willing to forgive that. He was not mad about them eating the fruit. He was mad about them putting clothes on. He literally says, "Who told you you were naked?" That's what he was pissed off about. Why are you dressing up? Why are you covering the goods? I came for a show. This isn't OnlyFans. This is only God. You know what I'm saying? He's a peeper. You've never noticed that God is a peeping Tom? You never noticed it before? Mm-hmm. That's how he knows why everybody's fucking, because that's what he's obsessed with. Menstruous, right? It's amazing. There's a man who sleeps with a menstruous woman, uncovers her nakedness, so both of them shall be cut off from the people. That's rough. You shall also not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister or of your father's sister. such as one who has uncovered his blood relative, they will bear the guilt. And if there's a man who sleeps with his uncle's wife, he has uncovered his uncle's nakedness, they will bear their sin, they will die childless. If there's a man who takes his brother's wife, it is detestable. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness, they will be childless. It's very interesting. I'm gonna skip some of this because I don't care anymore. Verse 27. Here we are. Now a man or a woman. Why did it jump back there? Okay, I gotta go because that jumped. You're gonna make some distinctions between the animals. Give it to you, land flowing with milk and honey. Don't follow the customs of the other nations, which is again a major thing here. Don't do anything I'm not telling you to do. Is the idea. You know what I'm saying? This is how you control people. Don't do anything we're not telling you to do. Because the moment you're doing something that we're not telling you to do, we're not in control of what you're doing, nor are we in control of the outcomes. Which means then we can no longer claim to be the man behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz, because we're not in control of the variables. Like this is like that's some of the social science behind it that people don't often see. Is what you're in most cases, you're not actually trying to control the people. You're trying to control the variables. Because if you can control the variables, then you are the one who always has an answer. You know what I'm saying? You're the one who has a better understanding. You become the God voice because you control the variables. So you can tell them exactly why this is happening or exactly why this isn't happening. And so if you're controlling the variables, right, you're controlling the food supply. And then a family who's not doing things the way they're supposed to, and they're not doing it, you don't have to wait for God to punish them. You could start punishing them by dwindling their food supply and doing it with false weights, making them think that they're still getting the same amount because you control the variables. And then you can then you could say, see, even though you fooled us, God knew, and God is punishing you for your sins. And if you want to fix it, you bring this, So that's how that works. Or at least that's one of the many ways that works. And then, of course, just these last few verses, verse 22 through 26, he's hyping them up on this promise that, I'm going to give you this land flowing with milk and honey. And I don't even know why that's attractive, but whatever floats your boat. I'm going to give you this land flowing with milk and honey. And this is the carrot and the stick, right? The whole reason I'm telling you about this land flowing with milk and honey is because I can then tell you, because if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, this land will vomit you out. The very land is going to kick you out. It's not gonna, doesn't like your taste anymore. That's the grand finale. And this is basically land-based morality. It's an early attempt to explain natural disasters and conquest. You still see this type of mindset among religious adherents today, land-based morality. This place is suffering because they're not doing something right. We saw it during the California wildfires. Christians gravitated to say that God was judging California because of a joke that somebody made at the Oscars. That is land-based morality. If you repent, I will heal your land. If you disobey God, I will curse the land. And then this idea kind of ties into stuff that we've seen like manifest destiny, colonization, and then just religious justifications for oppression and discrimination. And this is often used politically as well. Like this, it's this type of language that, just a certain party capitalized on to get the person they wanted elected. Using this idea, this same type of land-based morality that America is under the judgment of God because of all of our sins and because of our secularism. And so it's the language, but it stems from these types of ideologies. Man, like there was a lot more in chapter 20 than I expected to be here. A lot of stuff to pull out. Well, not more than I expected, but it's good stuff. But this is the funny thing about this chapter is that it's conveniently used only for, what am I trying to say? Did I go to the next one? I think I did. Yes. is conveniently used only for the pride community while overlooking all of these other things, many of these other things, which not only disqualify the predecessors of this chapter, but also disqualify many of the people in Scripture that come after this chapter. And again, this chapter itself can be used just if this is God and God finds anybody sleeping with their sibling a disgrace and that person is cut off from the people of God, then that means Abraham could have never been a part of the covenant. Just not how that is. I guess Melchizedek didn't know that Abraham was with his sister. He didn't know. Man. Oh, man, it's great to see you, Parable of the Sower. Glad that you made it. Glad that you made it. And listen, this is a great time to remind everybody, if you haven't participated in our poll yet, it's up there for the first. If this is your first time in Bible study, let us know. Or if you've been rocking with us for a while, let us know. As of now, 48% of you have been here for a while, and 52% of you have, this is your first time. And we got a total of 69 votes. Also, listen, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to support this channel in real time and become a part of the financial support, check out Patreon, do super chats, do all of that stuff. Back to regularly scheduled programming. Let's see if we can make it through another chapter. And so we're going to look at chapter 21. And if I could name this one, it would be the Divine HR Manual for Priests, because that's what we're kind of getting here. Leviticus 21 shift gears from laws for the general public to Yahweh's personal grooming and behavior standards for the priest. And so if you thought holiness was already restrictive, wait until you see the ridiculous hiring requirements for priesthood. This chapter establishes an ancient religious caste system separating priests from the rest of society by dictating who they can marry, how they grieve, and even what disabilities disqualify them from serving. From a secular humanist perspective, this chapter is a fascinating look at early religious elitism, purity culture, and ancient prejudices, some of which still shape religious leadership today. Meanwhile, urban contemporary churches rarely references these chapters unless they're enforcing marriage restrictions for pastors. The exclusion of disabled people from the priesthood, you won't hear about that from the pulpit, but you will hear about it in this chapter. And so we're going to kind of break down through this a little bit. Let's start with verse 1, which is going to open us up talking about purity a little bit. Male's rebellion, first time in alive. Nice to have you in here, man. That is awesome. 69 votes. Nice. That's what I said, Rainbow Wrath. I love it. All right. So Leviticus chapter 21, verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say to them, no one shall defile himself or a dead person among his people, except for his relatives who are nearest to him, his mother, his father, his son, his daughter, and his brother. Also for his virgin sister who is near him, because she has not had a husband, for he may defile himself. That's interesting. He shall not defile himself as a relative by marriage among his people, so as to profane himself. They shall not shave any area of their heads, bald. Why did I touch my beard? Nor shave off the edges of their beards, nor make any cuts on their flesh. They shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God, because they present the offerings by fire to the Lord, the food of their God, so they shall be holy. Okay, now this is actually a problematic statement here. This is one that never gets called out. I know for a fact I've never heard anybody call this particular aspect out. And so this might be the first time this concept ever gets highlighted. I've never talked about it before. I've never even thought about it before. But it is glaringly present in these words. I don't know how big of a deal it will be for you. Maybe it's my neurospicy here, but in this text, a specific definition of what it means to be holy is outlined. These are things. If you are to be holy, you need to shave your beard, and you need to shave your head. You need to not shave your beard, and you need to not shave your head. You need to never do these things. Doing these things makes you not holy. The problem is, this is not the first time we've seen God give a description of what holiness is. So what it seems to me is that holiness changes based on who the audience is. Because as a priest, to be holy, you have some standards. But then as the people to be holy, you have an entirely different set of standards, but yet these standards are supposed to be coming from the same God. And in both cases, you're told, be holy, for I am holy. Be holy like me, but yet the standards are different. That's puzzling to me. That, that is highly problematic. If God is constant, if God doesn't change, then the idea of holiness shouldn't change from class to class. You know what I'm saying? And so is it like God has a poverty class version of holiness where it's just like you too poor to be holy for real, for real? Which, now that I think about it, believe it or not, many pastors, that is kind of how we treated certain people. That like, if you were going through like really, really hard times, we understood why you got that drink. We understood why you might be sinning. You too poor to be truly holy. So we got, you got holy, and then you got holy deluxe. Holy deluxe for the people, who are like, that's holy first class. You got extra leg room in that holy, I guess. It's just very interesting. It's very interesting. And so, and so again, this is about purity, but then again, what you're finding here is that this isn't definitive. There actually isn't a standard here. And which brings another reason to why this is problematic, because then that means just like the priests are doing here, or just like whoever these writers are, whoever the composers of these stories are doing here, you can now use this word to mean whatever the fuck you want it to mean. And so you can tell somebody that, hey, what you're doing is not holy, and just assign anything to it because there actually isn't a standard, But this was definitely, this was big language where I come from. Be holy as your heavenly Father is holy, or be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect, which is the language that Jesus uses in Matthew chapter 5. To be perfect. But, the funny thing is, Jesus says, be ye therefore perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. But then Jesus also does not believe that anybody can be good, even himself. He says, don't call anybody good, not even me, for no one is good except the Father in heaven. So how can you chastise people to be perfect if you don't even believe they can be good? Do you see how this is actually a mind fuck? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that would be, oh, dinner makes me happy. Dinner makes me happy. Thank you, Freeman. We were so glad to have you in here, man. We love having you a part of the community. I'm glad I could actually, get to talk to you a little bit. Please enjoy that dinner on us. Hey, well, not on us. I'm not that rich yet. Actually, I'm nowhere near that rich. I'm kind of that broke. You know what I'm saying? No, literally. Y'all know the circumstances. All right, so we've gotten through verse 6. Let's get down a little bit. And of course, we talked about the beard trimming, which is very, very interesting. And there are some subsets of charismatics in a more deeply Pentecostal ones who follow these rules now, where they don't shave their beards and they don't shave their heads, and they do it as they're not embracing a replacement theology. They're embracing, I guess, what you can call a provocation theology, where they're trying to provoke Israel to follow the laws again. And I'm like, but you in Alabama. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, That's when you know it's cosplay. You know what I'm saying? See somebody and they're fighting up, they're dressing up like Power Rangers to fight, Zordon, or I don't remember these people, like Rita, the putties. I do remember these people. You see people dressed up they're not actually about to fight anybody. You know what I'm saying? And they know they're not actually about to fight anybody. That's how that type of stuff is for me. But that's also how a lot of stuff is, even outside of religious superstition. And y'all will hear me say this. It's not just our religious superstitions that we should be unpacking. We have relational superstitions. We have political superstitions. We have educational superstitions. My aim is to help as many people as I can unpack the layers of superstition in their lives. And not so you can make me happy, not so I can say, whoo, yes, there's less superstitious people on the planet. That does make me happy. But so that you can, you don't want to waste time struggling over shit that you really ain't even got to be struggling over. And you find out, damn, the only reason I was struggling in this area in my life is because I actually wasn't using the skills. I wasn't using the tools. I wasn't building those muscles. And it's easy to fall into that trap when things have been culturally, socially ingrained, right? So there are ideas we have about people and their relationships. Yes, it's all marketing and cosplay, right? It's, oh my goodness, it so much is. Damn, I mean, like that can be a whole video right now. I mean, that really is. That, shoot, man. Don't get me on that rabbit trail. All right, so let's get to verse 7 so we can actually make it through this other chapter. I'm actually doing good tonight. I'm kind of proud of myself. They shall not take a woman who is a prostitute and profaned, nor shall they take a woman divorced from her husband, for he is holy to his God. Now that's interesting. They shall not take a woman divorced from her husband because he is holy to his God. Now, like, how do you reconcile a doctrine of a God who hates divorce with a scripture that says a man, a man who's divorced from her husband? Nope, I got it. I read it right. Nope, I read it wrong. The priest is holy to his God, so he shall not take a woman divorced from her husband. Got it. He can't be with the divorced woman. All right. So, but it does sound like divorced people are safe here, right? All right. Like, I don't think you'd be able to take a woman divorced from her husband if she had already been stoned to death, right? So if there's women divorced from from their husbands who are available, that means that hasn't been a problem that you got to kill people for. So that's interesting. Talking about the church being corporate, I thought it was so weird. Absolutely, yep, the corporate church. Oh yeah, and man, because we had corporate prayer in my church, and I remember there was this big move, especially among the New Apostolic Reformation, which I was a part of in my earlier days. Again, I went by apostle for a while, but there was that idea we got to get the church in the marketplace and all that stuff. Very, very interesting. All right, so verse 8, you shall consecrate him therefore, because he offers the food of your God, he shall be holy to you, for I, the Lord who sanctifies you, am holy. So it's like, it's trickle down holiness. You know, he's holy because I'm holy, and it'll be holy to you too. Trickle down holiness. Also, the daughter of any priest, if she profanes herself by prostitution, she profanes her father, so she shall be burned with fire. Okay, now it doesn't seem like all prostitutes are in trouble here. Just if you're the daughter of a priest, then you're gonna get burned with fire. Yikes. The priest who is highest among his brothers, on whose head the anointing oil has been poured, and who has been consecrated to wear the garments, shall not uncover his head, nor tear his clothes, nor shall he approach any dead person, nor defile himself even for his father or his mother, nor shall he leave the sanctuary, nor profane the sanctuary of his God, for the consecration of the anointing oil of his God is on him. I am the Lord. All right, now this just something that I wonder if anybody thought about at all, is that by these definitions, the way churches do funerals are completely non-biblical. Like I say, extra biblical. You know, it didn't come from the Bible. You know, if we're gonna try to be as close to the Bible as possible, we're supposed to be away from the body. The priest, no, you don't need to be close to no dead body. You know, which I didn't like funerals anyway. But then it makes you wonder. But I will tell you, 90% of what happens in any church isn't coming from a Bible. You know what I'm saying? So it'd be very interesting to figure out, like, okay, these ideas, the way that we do funerals, we're having the body at the front and someone speaking over the body. Where does this particular practice evolve from? I'd be, as far as how it got into the church specifically. All right. He shall take a wife in her virginity. So his wife has to, never been before. A widow or divorced woman, or one is profaned by prostitution, he shall not take, but rather he is to marry a virgin of his own people. Now, like, what I'd like to say here, whoever the fuck was writing this, why couldn't you have just said that? You could have saved us so much fucking time by just saying, you got to marry a virgin, bro. You didn't have to say he can't take a divorced woman, he can't take a prostitute. Just say you got to marry a virgin. That knocks it out. Be concise, motherfucker. Concise. And I say that, I'm not always concise, but still, this is reading. This is reading. absolutely where those traditions come from, like stuff like that. I'm always interested. I'm always interested. Man, like we're so good. We got 46 people watching live right now. We've had 278 people watch the chat tonight. If you haven't shared this already, make sure to do so now. Let's see if we can cross over 50. Let's see if we can cross over 50. Yeah, and of course, and if you find this content valuable, man, we have an incredible community of supporters here. I'd love for you to be one of those supporters. Consider joining our Patreon. All right, back to the stuff. So that he will not profane his children among his people, because I am the Lord who sanctifies him. All right, now see, this is also problematic. Now, I let this slide the first time I read it, because remember I just mentioned that he kind of does this trickle down holiness thing. He is holy because of me, right? I let that slide because I could just be reading it. But here it is again. He says, I am the Lord who sanctifies him. So he is holy because of me. I am making him holy. I am the Lord who sanctifies him. But that's not necessarily what we're reading unless there's another way to understand this. Because this isn't, hey, you are now holy because I've made you holy. It's a command to be holy. And then by doing these things, you are now holy, right? But on the other side of that, it's I have made you holy. Which is kind of the relationship you get with church a lot of times. You go do things and you did the things and then you give that credit to God, right? But then we see that the Lord is saying, or at least the writer is saying, the Lord is saying, I am the one who's sanctifying you. So it's not you who are sanctifying yourself, but it is I who am sanctifying you. And I'm like, if that's the case, then why do I have to work so fucking hard to do all of this sanctifying? Why do I have to go chase down these turtle doves? Why do I have to go out here and get a goat? You know what I'm saying? Like, why do I have to do all of that if you're the one sanctifying me? Now, I have a theory. I'm not ready to publish this one yet, but I do have a theory, and I will talk a little bit about it in Deuteronomy, that the way we read this character is likely not the way this character was received. Now, again, I'm not solid on this. This is a French. As a matter of fact, I'm not even calling it a theory. Let's call it a hypothesis. I have a hypothesis. I have not fully tested this. I've not fully vetted it. I've not fully fleshed it out yet, but I have given it some thought and I have pulled some notes together on it yet. I just haven't done a deep dive there yet. And that is this idea, and you'll see it more so in Deuteronomy. But when you see this type of language, that I am the Lord who is sanctifying you, that I am the Lord who is making you holy, this is problematic if we see the Lord as an actual character. This is problematic if we see the Lord, or if we see God as a deity, God as a, like that. But let's pull back for a moment. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time here because I'm going to hit this stuff in Deuteronomy. Let's consider an alternative perspective. That in this fan fiction, God does not represent a character. God does represent an identity, but not a character. And so and this is my hypothesis, and though several thousand years removed from it, especially when considering the way many of these stories came into being, as far as being considered, cataloged as some type of doctrine, several thousand years removed from it, what we see in it may be more a reflection of where we were at the time, as opposed to where the original crafters of this story were. And in that sense, the hypothesis is that God is actually not an active character, but God is an identity. In the very same way, like if you work for Google, you say Google paid your check. Google paid you this month. Google pissed you off. You know what I'm saying? Google is killing you. Google won't let you have a life. None of the times when you say this, do you actually mean that Google is this character who's doing these things. Google is the personification of the cooperative effort of other people. But we don't just do that with Google. We do that with America. You know what I'm saying? America has done this. America has done this. America will do this. We don't just do that with nations. We do that with concepts.
Liberty has done this, and it is liberty that has pushed us forward. You know, and so my hypothesis is that much of this was just a personification of their own corporate identity. And I have a sneaky suspicion that that's what these stories originally or could have originally been for. That's just one of those things. Google, you know, that's hilarious. You know what I'm saying? Google, Google, Google. It's a hard word to say, man. Now it's reminding me of Wicked. I saw Wicked, and it's making me think of Galinda. You know? And so it's very interesting because we do those same things today. And also because we can see that in other cultures, we can see that in other mythologies. We can, and again, remember I was telling you anthropology is getting a major overhaul because we are learning that there are a lot of assumptions we've made on ancient peoples that were our anachronisms, that were us taking the way we looked at the world and saying for sure this is how they may have looked at it too. And while that has always been a possibility and still is true in many cases, it's never safe to make the assumption. We need to have the justification for the assumption, and this justification can't be the consensus fallacy. Well, we all think this, so that must be what it is. And it's just like, but why do you think that? What is your justification for thinking that? For years, Egyptology was kind of hindered because there were so many of Eurocentric, Christocentric point of references when looking back, when looking on Egyptian relics. And so we'd get the story, we'd get some insight into Egypt, but we'd miss out on a whole lot of other insight. So one of the cases is, it was just a relic of where they have their hands lifted up and they're pointing at the sun. But that's not how we described it, and that's not how we saw it when we first saw it. When we first saw it, because of where we were, you know, collectively, society, that zeitgeist or whatever, we said they're worshiping the sun. And yes, there were sun worshipers in Egypt for sure, but that just turned out that's not what that relic ended up being about. Except for unless we're using very loose, poetic, flowery language. But it was it ended up being an astronomical, yes, yeah, astronomical relic. And so, but a lot of that stuff was missed for decades, if not centuries, of Egyptian research because of the way we were looking at it. And it's not just Egypt we've done that with, and it's not just the brown and black folks we've done that with, even though we do that more with other cultures. And just to be clear, we typically do that for any culture that we don't have a point of reference for, right? So if there's a culture that you don't have a relation to, that's why I'm doing the documentary on Africa's connection to the Bible, Israelite culture, and early Christianity, because I have a cultural point of reference for that, you know? And so that's why you see all of the other people doing things about the Greek culture's impacts and the Persians' impacts and the Romans' impact, because that's where they have that cultural point of reference. Has this been good stuff, man? Like I'd be going off every now and then, but it's all good. All right, so the Lord is doing the sanctifying. I hit my rabbit trail there. Let's continue. Verse 16. Then the Lord spoke to Moses again. And mind you, kind of going back to this thing about Google, and again, you'll see this. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? You can now start to kind of see, because you'll recognize is that the Lord doesn't ever speak to individuals for real. And I used to preach this even when I was a believer, is that God doesn't speak to individuals. And I wasn't preaching it as a doctrine. It was a leadership thing that I should say. God doesn't speak to individuals. God speaks to groups. Even when God is speaking to one, he's always speaking on behalf of the many, you know. And maybe the reason that God doesn't speak to you is because you don't care about enough people. You know, do all that type of stuff. But you'll notice that especially through the books of Moses, when God is speaking, it is the Lord spoke to Moses. And why do you think that's there? Because this is a justification. I got a piece of my mustache in my hair, in my mouth. This is a justification of Moses. The people have never heard Moses, are never hearing the Lord say anything. This is a justification of where Moses is getting his insight from. Now, I could honestly take some of this stuff and teach leadership from it, like for real, because there is some good principles in here, not because it's the Bible, but because it's a story of people. And that is the idea. So you can now, every time you see, then the Lord spoke to Moses saying, you could actually reinterpret that if my hypothesis was valid as, and then Moses paid attention to the people and made this decision. Like if my hypothesis is accurate, which again, I don't know. I have not tested it, so I'm not claiming that in the least bit. I just think it's a fun thought experiment. But if my hypothesis was accurate, the way you could read this is then the Lord spoke to Moses, or not then the Lord spoke to Moses, but that, damn it, how did I say it? Oh yeah, then Moses paid attention to the people, the collective identity, and made a decision, which is ultimately what anybody in leadership does if they're trying to be good at what they're doing. They take the temperature of the people and respond to that. And that's what you see with all of these laws, right? With all of these laws, we can ask the question, what was going on that made them have to write this one? You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, then the spirit of America said to whoever, y'all need to stop this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that type of thing. It's that type of thing. All right, so, and so speak to Aaron, saying, none of your descendants throughout their generations who has an impairment shall approach to offer the food of his God. Now, like, honestly, I think this is an overlooked opportunity for people to highlight the true cruelty of God. People are going to make excuses for slavery because people secretly still believe slavery is okay. You know what I'm saying? And just honestly, more people in this world are okay with slavery than you think. A great show to watch that'll kind of fuck with your mind while giving you something to laugh at the same time is The Good Place. And one of the pivotal points that it does a good job of highlighting is that there are more of us supporting inhumanity and bad things than we like to admit. So in an information age, most of us are astutely aware that many of the products and devices and merch that we buy is dependent on some form of forced labor or unsafe labor or unpaid labor, and yet we still continue to do it. But not even that. I don't know how many, I won't put this one on you because you may not know, but there are many countries on this planet today that still have chattel slavery. Chattel slavery, however the fuck you want to say it, still exist. But out of sight, out of mind. This is why I constantly call out the secular community for being American humanist and not global humanist. As long as we are attached to our borders, we've not really chosen to be true humanist. You like your human in a certain nationalistic seasoning, which is just unnecessary. But I feel like this is an opportunity. We'll point out slavery. We'll point out women. We'll point out children. I think this is a missed opportunity for conversation because we see how so many believers make those excuses, But what is the excuse for a person who was born with some type of, using the Bible's word, impairment? Some type of person who suffered an impairment, no fault of their own. And then God determines that this person cannot approach to help God. This is how God feels about people who are differently abled. I don't know if that term still works. This is the scripture. This is scripture. I think this is a missed opportunity. I think this is one that because I don't hear people talk about this one. You know, another one is the way God feels about bastards. You know, a bastard shall, and I don't remember if that one is in here. But like, and he starts listing the impairments. No one who has an impairment shall approach a man who is blind, or one who limps. You know, if you limp, you got to limp. You know, like wow, or one who has a slit nose, or one with any conspicuous feature, which now gives people the right or license to take anything about you that is different and determine that it is a handicap. Now that gives anybody the language to take anything about you that they don't like and make that some type of defect, such as your skin color, such as your gender. You know what I'm saying? It's here. You know, Jesus was a bastard. You know, it says someone who has a broken foot, someone who has a broken hand, or a contorted back, or one who is a dwarf. Like, why did we have to start name calling? Everybody else, you've been descriptive. Why couldn't you say one who is short? Nope. Or has a spot in his eye, or a festering rash of scab, or crushed testicles. Is that a syndrome? Is crushed testicles a thing? That's a yikes. I mean, I wouldn't even want to serve then. Right? That's a good question, Kyle. Not a broken mind. Wow. Your mind could be fucked up and you're good to go. But them testicles can't be crushed because God has plans for those testicles in him and Diddy's naked garden parties. We're definitely gonna, we're going to write the skit. I don't know, Seth MacFarlane, Seth Rogen, somebody. We've got to write this skit. Danny McBride, you do it. We've got Dave Chappelle. We've got to write this skit with God and Diddy naked garden parties. We've got to do this thing. Baby oil, olive oil. You know what I'm saying? Mardi Gras beads, rosary beads. There's a story here. There's a story. All right? Crushed testicles is where we were. No man among the descendants of Aaron the priest who has an impairment is to come forward to the Lord's offering by fire. Since he has an impairment, he shall not come forward to offer the food of his God. He may eat the food of his God, both of the most holy and of the holy. Only he shall not come up to the veil or approach the altar, since he has an impairment, so that he does not profane my sanctuaries. For I am the Lord who sanctifies them. And again, there's that for I am the Lord who sanctifies them, but it's actually you doing the sanctification, which is for me, the indication that the people crafting these stories may have had an understanding that this is not an active character, but this is the personification of our collective existence. You know, this is political fiction. You know, this is our political myth, our political fable. But you also see here something that is very steep in Western culture, and it really comes from language like this. And of course, just the problem with, I don't even want to say intelligent design, but creation, we'll go there. I don't like when people like to equate creation with intelligent design. I don't support either of those, but they are not the same thing, you know? And so, like, yes, while there may be some scientists who believe, you know, there are some, and I don't want to say that, I don't want to trivialize that. There are many scientists who give credence to the possibility of intelligent design. They in no way give credence to creationism. And sometimes when we don't call that distinction out, a lot of times believers take advantage of that shit and try to merge those two things together as if they're the same thing, and they're not. But the problem with the idea of creationism is that it imposes a prototype. It imposes a norm. It imposes a standard that everyone else has to conform to. It imposes an image, and phew, and in many cases, the man of God or the woman of God or the representative of God becomes that image bearer, which is something I fought against quite a bit as a pastor, becomes that image bearer. But this is this thing that we've kind of given ourselves over into, especially in this country, is everything becomes about image and the illusion of perfection, because then people are trying so hard to look like this prototype. And and again, that's how you begin to determine what is normal. This is what is being defined in this chapter, what is considered normal and what is not normal. That's what you're getting here. And then while you're doing that, you're adding the extra layer of, and this is perfection. This is what everybody should be aiming to do. And I'm very averse to that type of pathology. Man, accidents versus strictly planned creation. Yes, I love this. Oh man. Divorcing it from its context is insane. Absolutely. And so Moses spoke to Aaron and to his sons and to all the sons of Israel. And again, there's that pattern again, all right? So the Lord speaks to Moses, and then Moses speaks to the people, all right? If the Lord was actually a character, there would be no need for the phone tag, like by far and large, most mythology doesn't read that way, right? Like when Zeus wants to talk to a mortal, he goes down there, turns into a bull and fucks him, and then talks to the mortal. Zeus has to get some, got to get some of that punani. But he does what he does. So those are one of the reasons I have my hypothesis, is that this deviates from typical mythological fashions. This reads more like a political fable, where the people are far removed from the idea of this God as an actual character. And guess where you can find evidence of stuff like that at? In Egypt, in Mesopotamia, in Babylon. You find those same types of stories where, yes, there is an early period, which is typically much earlier than any of the stuff that we're reading tonight. But there's an early period where these people have some type of affinity and some ideas about the gods being real. But there is an absolute period in Greek history where they absolutely knew that Zeus wasn't real, Hera was not real, or any of these things. And yet they still use these names and still use this language in their political fiction, in their political fables, in their stories of conquest, in the same way. And it's not something that we're completely divorced from, because we do it today. Even those of us who are non-believers, and even Christians who are not actively believers, still use that type of language in the fable. It's just like when parents tell their kids, Santa was good this year, wasn't he? Like, if you go back, what we do sometimes anachronistically is as dishonest or irresponsible as reading some letters from 1990s parents to their children, and then concluding that because these parents wrote these letters about Santa Claus, or because these kids wrote these letters about Santa Claus, then it's apparent that all of these adults worship this guy named Santa that they talk to all the time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Just want to throw that stuff out there. Oh, we got PA in there. Oh man, which I'm gonna have to learn how to, because these won't start on this side, not using StreamYard anymore. So we're gonna have to go back through all of the chats to get these. Or maybe there's another way to highlight them. I don't know. I'm gonna find out. But we did make it through 2 chapters tonight, and there's 47 of you still hanging on, so that is super duper awesome. You can't beat that. Which y'all are really good, and I told you I'm gonna be pushing out a lot more content. I'm gonna hit chapter 22. I'm not gonna read it. I'm just gonna give you an overview real quick. which is basically, it's a quality assurance manual for priests, because next week I want to pick up with 23, because I want to get the fuck out of Leviticus as soon as possible, because there's some exciting things there, you know. Over 53% today. Yep, we invoke God in our everyday language as non-believers. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, quick breakdown of Leviticus 22. The priest must stay holy or else, spoiler alert, right? The exclusion list, who can eat sacred food. There's the no defective animals policy, because, and again, that's that idea of you can be defective. Something is wrong with you, right? And so every time, I want us to actually start thinking about how that central idea, which is very central to the Bible, how that has been so damaging to humanity. To look at anybody else under any circumstances, and I know this is hard, especially in today's context, but to look at anybody else under any circumstances and see them as defective because they are different than you. You know? We do this, and this is, I think we talked about it, and I cannot remember which series we talked about this in, but we've got to push away from this idea of normalcy. Oh, this person isn't normal because they didn't do this. This is where this stuff is coming from. It's coming from this place. It's coming from this place of being, of thinking that there is this model that you have to, ascribe to. And what I'm trying to remind people is that we're not a created species. We're an evolutionary species. We didn't fall from grace. We were never in a perfect place and things got worse. We were in the middle of chaos and an absolute nightmare. And as a species, we've learned how to collectively work together. And little by little, over the long view of history, we've gotten better and better. When you believe that there was a perfection in the beginning, you rob yourself of the appreciation of everything we've accomplished so far. When you think that you fell from something, you don't know, you don't understand how much you've actually risen up to. We are an extraordinary species. Life is extraordinary itself. You don't have to put yourself in anybody else's box. We get to self-define and see what life is like for us, And so, I don't need anybody else to be me. I don't have a prototype of existence anymore. I've left that alone. That's why, this is why I'm very adamant when people are like, oh, I wish you wouldn't cuss. I don't give a fuck about your wishes. Your wishes don't exist for me, Or people say, oh, I want you to do this, or I want you to do this. And I'm like, we need to stop that shit. Nobody else exists for your wants. Period. Get that taste out your mouth, man. You know what I'm saying? If I was you, but you're not them. So just get that shit out your mouth. Focus on you. That's the best. Nobody else owes you their existence. We've got, that's why I say it's not just the religious superstition for me. We've got to dig deep into all of these superstitions. Here's a quick one. It's kind of funny, but I mean it. Stop asking people how they doing if you don't mean it. Don't do that. Just say something different. Just say, hey. Don't be like, how you doing? And keep on walking. Stop doing that shit. That's superstitious as fuck. Stop it. Just stop it. And don't feel like you have to. Don't feel like, oh, I'm rude if I don't do that. Well, what did you do that was rude? Stop that. No. Because that's not helping anybody. Okay? But then, yeah, I know, I will go on and on. Let me make sure. Is there anything else in 22 that I want to hit? Oh, I did put together a little checklist. Priests must stay ceremonially pure. That typically gets ignored today. Only priests can eat sacred food. That gets ignored today. No defective sacrifices allowed. That is only used to justify giving God your best, which we do the same thing with Cain and Abel's offering. See, Cain got punished because he didn't give God his best offering. So we do the same thing with Leviticus 22. If you're bringing a defective sacrifice in the same way Cain was bringing, you're supposed to bring the first fruits. You're supposed to bring the best of what you have, which I'm like, But if God made everything out of nothing, why would he need the best of anything? Like why you can do it with nothing, so why don't you just do it with nothing? Like this is how you know like the stories are not the stories. Like a God who doesn't need anything to make things doesn't need dirt to make a man, and damn sure wouldn't need a rib to make a woman. Like this, it just gets worse and worse, man. Gets worse and worse. You can't sacrifice newborn animals too soon, completely ignored, and obey God or else. And that's pretty much still used in sermons today. And so today, we technically made it through 2 chapters, but I included the outline of chapter 22 because who really cares? Nobody cares. Y'all shouldn't. You shouldn't. Don't care. Don't be like that. But I enjoyed tonight. I think this is probably the longest one that I've ever done. I normally try to aim for 2 hours, but normally I think I start ramping down around the 45-minute mark, 15 to close. But I enjoy these, man. I'm glad that you all enjoy them. We're gonna keep cranking these out as much as I can. Let me get these credits rolling while I'm here. We're gonna keep banging these out so that we can continue to build community. We can continue to grow this channel. We can continue to create opportunities for other folk. As I said, over the next few months, I'm gonna be hyper focusing on content, trying to get as much content out as I can. I'm going to be pulling back a little bit. I know I was on this high recruitment phase for a few months, trying to get as many volunteers as we could, primarily because our community is just growing so fast, and it's still growing. But unfortunately, it's that unrealistic growth, and so because of that, there's no way we could recruit all of the volunteers we need, then train them, onboard them, and then actually manage them. We literally don't have enough of anything in any of those regards. Thank you, Kyle. I'll tell you, this new space, trying some things out. So instead, we're gonna work smarter, not harder. The community is already growing, and that's the thing that I've kind of relieved from my head. I was stressing out because my idea was like, oh man, if we're not actively doing these things, if we're not getting the volunteers pulled together, then the community is gonna fizzle out. And as I've just been going through the stuff over the past few weeks and going through the data, and seeing things, it's become clear to me that no, the community is growing because this is organic, And so where my focus is going to be is on the content, so that the content can continue to support the growth of the community and continue. Some of it is happening on Discord, and we got to drive more traction there. But a lot of it is happening right in the comments, and it is absolutely beautiful. So I'm committed to get as much content out here as I can, and y'all have heard some of that content that's going to be coming up. And then, of course, also I'm going to be taking the music thing a little more seriously as well, because that's content too. And we'll be getting stuff out here, man. We're going to set this stuff on fire. And again, if y'all can drop, well, I think I may have it. Yeah, I can switch back over to the to my announcement slide so I can get this link. Again, if you're interested in the community aspect, use this link. Use this link. If you're interested in the community aspect, go to that website. Let us know. You'll learn a buttload about what we're trying to do as a community and building a community beyond superstition. If you want to know just more about me and the work that I'm doing and the other work that we're doing, so we got the community, we got the channel, we have the campaign. There's a lot of stuff going on. Then you stay plugged in right here by tuning in to sessions just like this. And then also you can learn about Bridge City and the work we're doing there through that link. You can learn more about me at dldd.us. I should have put that one in there too. I don't have it in my notes, but dldd.us. And if you want to make sure that this type of content is always here and that we're able to move just from the content and actually start making some tangible difference, consider joining our Patreon or our YouTube membership program. I mean, what do you got to lose, But it's a great way to actually help us continue to do the damn thing. I love you all. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. And until next time, keep rising, man. And stay progressive. And let me see if I can hit this intro. I'm going to hit it, which I guess is technically an outro now.